Uh, there we go. Okay.
All right.
All right, so are we back in business?
We are.
Okay, well, officially welcome classes of 1970 and 1971 to the first quarterly reunion meeting of 2022. So Nancy always wins the distance award. Who else we got that's not in California besides myself? I'm in Texas. Dan, where are you at?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Anybody else not in California? The rest of y'all in California?
Catherine from Hawaii. Am I wrong on that?
No, Nancy's in Hawaii. Catherine, you're in SoCal, aren't you?
I'm in Sacramento. I'm
Oh,
in the
you are?
pocket. I'm in the pocket.
South Sacramento.
Larry Uno is the other farthest away.
Sacramento.
All right. Bronston's in Sac.
So what's going on in Sacramento, people?
Beautiful weather today.
The fog finally lifted. Sunny.
My sister lives in Nevada City, and she was complaining about the snow.
Oh,
I couldn't get in my office for 3 days, no electricity.
Yeah. Does your sister have power?
I don't know if she does. I talked to her like 3 or 4 days ago, and she didn't. She hadn't had power for 8 days.
Wow.
Politics as usual here. Now, Dan, how do you like South Carolina?
Yeah, I like it for a lot of reasons. The air is fresh.
Yeah.
Cost of living is low. It's green. They don't have fires here because it rains all year round. And every state has its own uniqueness that makes it attractive. I mean, California also is an awesome state. Yeah, I've lost everybody on the screen. I'm trying to get it back, although I hear everybody just fine. So
Yeah, look for your little icon with it's a blue circle with a camera in the middle. And
that one there.
click on that.
I was just trying to adjust the screen. Oh, there it is. Is that it?
And the view you have choices as far as view in the Zoom meeting box. You can change from a gallery view to a speaker view to an immersive view. I don't even know what that is. Choose immersive view. Gather everyone in the same view. Participants using older versions may see others with a dark background.
Oh,
I think I'll pass on that, but
sounds scary.
Try it again this way.
The high def one that goes up your nose.
You'd also like to point out about South Carolina. You'll remember Jesse Colin Young, who's probably Mr. Hippie, you know?
Oh yeah. Great
Leaving
stuff.
California, and what state most appealed to him? He's living right here in Carolina.
So
that,
what part of South Carolina are you at, Dan?
I'm right in the center of the state. I'm in Columbia, the state capital.
Okay.
And he lives right by Augusta, which is Georgia, but he's in South Carolina, the other side.
so
And,
we watch a show on HGTV called Love It or List It, and I think they do a lot of Carolina stuff, but I think it might be North Carolina.
They're, similar name, but two different states. They're a lot of rockers retire up in the Asheville area. That keyboardist who was there at the beginning, any deadheads amongst us? Tom Constantine, I believe his name is, and he keyboardist. And he's the only dead keyboardist that's alive today. All the rest died.
Sounds like an oxymoron. He's the only dead keyboard that's alive.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember Pigpen? He died, and all the others, and this one guy still alive for some reason.
Yeah.
Lives up there, and also the drummer from the Leonard Skinner is Artemis Pyle lives up there. So, but
I think the Love It or List It is in and around the Raleigh-Durham area.
Yeah, we went to Kitty Hawk with our nephew when he was in the Navy, and we saw this exhibit about women aviators. And so they had all of these women aviators from the various services. And, he looked a little skittish. And on the way home, we said, what was wrong, Justin? Why were you acting so strangely? And he said, well, I was too far from base and there were all these military officers in the room. So, yeah, he was based, Virginia Beach. I forget what the Navy base near there is.
Well, Virginia Beach has a large Navy base there and a SEAL base as well.
I should know these things because the other show we like to watch is NCIS.
Yeah, there's a big base here.
SEAL Team that comes out of Virginia Beach. That's a pretty good show. Have you watched SEAL Team?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Well, it moved from CBS to Paramount Plus now, but it's pretty realistic, sort of a good thing, both from a realistic from the SEAL team, their home life, their interaction with each other, not just their missions, basically. But
Their wrecked home lives.
yeah, they cover that quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
It's hard to do both.
Yeah, it is.
So,
They
so has anybody seen anything like a book or a movie or a history or a documentary, anything that you thought was somewhat reminiscent of our experience of growing up in Sacramento?
Yes. What's the name of that movie?
Lady Bird.
Yeah, Lady Bird.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
Yep.
Well, we
That
like to
was
all
a
say
great movie.
American Graffiti. Remember when downtown area used to be a pretty good cruising area, L Street and then come back on J Street.
Well, Lady Bird's going to hit about every landmark you ever saw in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Or hung out at, or got drunk at, or got high at, or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, at one point you could tour the house that Lady Bird was shot in too. So,
Yeah.
and then I actually, the mother was a psychiatric nurse, and I work at the psychiatric center, and it was pretty real, pretty accurate.
The infamous 6th floor.
No comment.
So Julie, are you trying to be incognito or?
I don't know how to get my camera on. Where is this camera button here?
Are you
Okay,
on?
wait, let me pull this up.
Are you on Apple or PC?
I just sent
The
you a
host
request
was
to
asking
start
this.
your
Oh,
video.
Oh, I got it. I'm supposed to hit start video, and then you can see me, right?
All right.
No.
There she
There you
is.
are. Yay.
Yay.
Oh, hi, everybody.
I remember that girl.
Stephanie, you okay?
I'm fine.
It was last week I was noticing I hadn't seen you had any thumbs up or comment or anything, and I would say it's going on a few more days. I'm going to send her an email, see if she's all right. I wasn't used to that. Is everything all right?
Yes, things are fine.
Yeah, I'm good. Happy to hear that.
I had a comment though. I was sitting in the house on Saturday and I kept hearing this rumbling, and bass notes. And it was the lowriders. The new circuit is through the park, up Riverside, across Broadway, down Land Park, and through the park.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So do that regularly, I think like every first Saturday of the month.
So do you live right next to?
I live 2 blocks in from the park.
Oh, okay. My girlfriend has a house on 7th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
She's between the park, right north of the park there.
Yeah.
That's still a really pretty area.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a great neighborhood still.
So are any of you guys on the Sacramento History Facebook group?
Yes, I think I am.
That's a lot of fun. I enjoy that.
Sacramento has history?
Yeah, how about that?
Huh.
We have the museum downtown. If you want to learn, besides the Railroad Museum, there's another museum downtown.
Sacramento History Museum?
Yeah, something like that. I don't
Never
know.
heard of it.
So there's also the
It's a pretty good
Sacramento
museum.
room. The Sacramento room in the, at the main library. And my mother and I just did a bit of a documentary on my great grandmother, because my great grandmother lived here in 1900 over in East Sacramento, and my great grandfather. But this was a documentary. I just asked, we found an old song that my great grandmother had written
Oh, wow.
in 1932. And I asked someone at the Asian Community Center if they could play it for my mom, hopefully before my mom passed away. And they took the song and they took it, excuse me, one step farther. They started to research it. And they said, no, we want to research this a little bit more and do a special on your great grandmother with your mom.
Very nice.
My mom is suffering from Alzheimer's. So they interviewed my mom, and, you know, people with Alzheimer's remember their childhood more than their present life. My mom remembered all kinds of stuff about about her grandmother. So they got a good story out of her, and the Sacramento Archives dug into it. And they dug into the Sacramento room, which has a lot of history. If you're into history about Sacramento, you could find a lot of it in the Sacramento room. So they came up with some really good information about my great grandmother.
And where's the Sacramento room?
In the library, the main library downtown.
Okay.
Yeah,
I understand there's some history installation at Sacramento City College as well.
probably.
Sacramento history.
But they put this whole thing together. It's about an hour long. It's a video that they will stay in the archives.
If you have a day and sort of a morbid curiosity, you could take like a half a day and take a stroll through the old city cemetery.
Well, I've
And,
done that many times.
yeah, you'll find all kinds of names.
Oh, yeah. Well, I used to take kids on field trips there.
So do you guys remember, well, I assume it's still there, that the Sacramento Children's Home on Sutterville?
Yeah.
My great grandmother was a resident of the Sacramento Children's Home when it was downtown. And it was known as the Sacramento Protestant Orphan Asylum.
Asylum.
And this was the 1890s, which I had no idea that my history in Sacramento went back that far.
Wow.
It probably goes back farther than that. You'd be surprised when they start digging.
Well, don't do that in a cemetery.
So Alexander Hamilton's son is buried in our cemetery.
Really?
Yes, we went to see his grave a couple years ago.
Pardon?
He died of cholera, I think. Came out here for the gold rush and died of cholera about 1850.
Oh, okay.
I was walking up a trail in the cemetery and looked down on my left and, hey, there's Virgil Earp. Not a very fancy stone.
You related to Wyatt?
Where's
Brother.
Wyatt buried?
Right, Wyatt's in Colma, I think,
Yeah.
along with everybody else.
Yeah.
Even my
People are dying to
grandmother's
get in
in coma.
A big
19
Chinese there.
Hi, Don.
So we used to go for rides in the foothills, and that really inspired a love of history in me. All the old mining towns.
Still a beautiful drive up there, up 49, especially in the spring when everything's green.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely
Yeah,
have to, have to check out the Sacramento room. That's great to know there's something like that exists. Then did somebody say there's also a Sacramento History Museum?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that in Old Town?
No, actually, it's downtown somewhere. I went to this huge party. They rented out the entire museum, and it's 2 floors. And I know a section of it is all about the Chinese history here in Sacramento, way back to when we had, like, they called them druggists back then. And the Yi family, and I don't know how many of you know Wes Yi, who went to McClatchy, graduated the same year as us. But his grandfather and his family had a lot to do with that museum, plus other areas of history in Sacramento. So I'll try to find out. I'll text somebody and get the address for you. So
I'm living in Folsom right now. There's quite a Chinese history here as well.
Right. Yes.
The Chans.
What's
And
the
there's a
latest
Chinese
on moving
cemetery.
the zoo? Have they
Latest on what?
moving the zoo? I heard they were going to move the zoo out to Elk Grove.
Yeah, what they're planning on doing is, because the zoo is getting too small, so they haven't found a place yet, but they planning to keep the William Land Zoo, as far as I know, is reptiles and birds, and move the larger animals somewhere else, possibly to Elk Grove.
Elk Grove was the last I heard.
Yeah, but I don't know when that's coming.
Yeah,
So.
they have some sort of negotiating agreement time, like 6 months or so, to work with the zoo and the city of Elk Grove to see if they can cut a deal that would move the zoo to Elk Grove. They have a site selected and see if they end up doing it or not.
Wasn't there
What's the
some talk
latest,
about moving it out to the old Arco Arena out in that area?
There
Yeah.
was,
But
But the
is
late-
that still something that's being considered?
I don't think
No.
so.
No, they've decided they're doing a medical teaching center out there instead.
So Steve, what's the latest with Fairy Tale Town?
They are building a story center, trying to get it out of the ground. It's been too wet to get it out of the ground, so we've been removing all the soil and putting back in gravel and things like that. So that's their big projects coming up. So next time we have a reunion, if we have it there, we'll have an indoor space too. That's kind of cool. So yeah, they were very happy to have us there for sure. They had a good time putting it on for us and worked out well.
It could not have been a better venue. I think it was just perfect. And, it was great to see that Fairy Tale Town's still in such great shape. I mean, I got such great memories of going there as a kid and everything. And the fact that it's still there, 60 years later, is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I thought it was an excellent venue. Yeah, worked out great. And the weather was absolutely perfect.
Perfect day. Yeah.
It changed the next day.
It did. Yeah.
Oh,
Hi,
Steve,
Nancy.
Steve, can I ask you, did you get my letter back in October with?
I did. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right.
Yeah, I got your letter and some money back. So if we ever Bob, if we ever go forward with that scholarship idea, I have some money that I can give to that came back from the Fairy Tale Town.
All right. Yeah, there
Money.
was
If we ever
very
go-
little interest in that at the time that we
Yeah.
talked about it, and I haven't talked to Darby since. It was his idea originally. He wanted to put some money up. I'd be willing, but it's kind of a chore to administer something like that.
It is very much so. Very much so.
So I understand the lack of interest in getting involved in that.
Yeah.
Easy to start it, tough to maintain it.
Yeah, good point.
I'm really distracted by Nancy's background.
Thank you, Curtis. Nobody had said anything.
Well, we're all wondering if it's live and didn't want to say anything. If you're in a studio background.
It's a real shot though, taken by myself.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually pretty much what it looks like here today.
Wow.
Yeah.
How unfortunate.
Yeah, the winds are blowing and everything just like that, huh?
Yeah, soft breeze.
Soft breeze.
For us, a chilly 79.
All right.
I just want to thank everybody again on the committee for just such a fantastic experience for me personally. And
Well, you must love work because you did an awful lot of it.
well, yeah, it was fun. Yeah, made fun by everybody that I worked with.
Okay.
Yeah, we owe several people in this meeting a lot of thanks. I just want to thank everybody that participated and helped in any way.
Like you?
Yeah. Start right there.
Yeah, start right there.
I mean,
yeah,
the Zoom thing is easy. I mean, and the Facebook thing was easy too. Once Dan got involved and started posting, I mean, it had a life of its own. So that's.
Curtis did a great job.
I think in particular, Nick and Nancy did an awful lot of work, and Steve and Gordon and I did a lot of awful work.
a lot of out of tune work.
I love your sense of humor.
That was so memorable. I mean, it's so great to see you guys perform and Steve, everything you did to get that venue. I mean, that was amazing.
Hey, Gordon, can we put in requests already for the next reunion?
Sure, Curtis. I think you said whole lot of love, right?
That's right. I want you to share.
I remember. Okay.
He's gonna make you do Jimmy Page yet.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned, I don't know that everybody knew this, but there was a McClatchy grad that was a guest of one of our classmates. And they had I think she was class of 71, McClatchy. And they had been planning a reunion in September too, but they ended up canceling it. And she approached me and just wanted to know every detail about how we executed ours, because she said it was so perfect that she wants to mirror everything that we did.
Hey, tell Janet we said hey.
Yeah, so I don't know if Fairy Tale Town Steve heard from a McClatchy grad, but that was a nice compliment.
Yeah.
Was it canceled because of COVID?
Yes. Yeah, but it was indoor. And she said that was the big mistake. There were a lot of people that weren't comfortable with the indoor venue.
See, that was a good decision made, 6 months before or whatever, when we were talking about it. That was a really good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of the highlights
something else
for
we
me,
can blame Steve for.
if I could just ask you those in Sacramento, one of the highlights for me was seeing Robin Chu. So if you can keep me posted on how she's doing, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, is anybody in touch with her?
I'm not.
No.
Yeah, I thought about emailing her, but I don't know if that's something you want to ask, but that was pretty special that she came.
She seemed to have a great job and she was very appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think an email saying, how are you? Is inappropriate.
Yeah, maybe just thinking about you, great to see you. And
Well, the video, I think, is a good way to, involve people that maybe are somewhat camera shy. And what I've been doing with other groups is uploading them to YouTube and then giving people the link. The problem with these videos is that they're massive. They're like, you know, from 500 to 1,000 megabytes. And YouTube's the only place I could find where it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to upload them and share them. If anybody has any other suggestions, I'm open to it.
Can I say something that I wanted to say at the last meeting? I wanted to give a shout out to whoever organized the table settings with the flowers. Do you know who did that?
Nancy.
Nancy.
Did you do that? Because I want to tell you how amazing those things lasted. It lasted me 1 month.
Oh,
to the
wow.
day.
Wow.
That's
And I was
great.
actually going to post it. Now, I'll probably take the picture. I still have it. And I will put it on my Facebook. I'll put it on Facebook so you guys can
Hey.
see
Cool.
how special that was. So whoever the florist where you got those from,
Believe it
fantastic
or
for it to
not.
last that long.
Yeah,
And
believe
put
it or
together.
not, it was Rayleigh's.
Really? Well, they
Yeah.
did.
I think they overdid for what, frankly, we paid, because the manager of the floral department had gone to Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, when I walked in and saw it, I'm like, wow, okay. And then I had ordered the little, tags and all
Tags.
that. But yeah, I always felt like it's the little things that sometimes make an event. So luckily we had the
So
money,
true. So
in
true.
the end, but that's great.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. And I didn't know if the guys even paid attention to it, but I'm sure many of us who took
There were
home
tables?
the table settings appreciated it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely, Nancy. Those were awesome.
Yeah, yeah, Kathy, you said yours had lasted a while, right?
Well, yeah, at least a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Rayleigh's.
Good
Rayleigh's
job.
on Fruitvale, I think it was. I'm trying to remember. Fruit Ridge with
Fruit
Fruitvale.
Ridge. Yeah, Fruit Ridge.
Fruit Ridge, yeah.
Okay, people, were we going to discuss the next gathering, whether we're going to do how the frequency, and I had my own suggestions. I'm sure you had all of yours. And
Yeah, we should. What's your idea, Dan?
well, I gave a couple before, but one other thing I want to throw at you, if we just hypothetical numbers, if we were to have a vote on should we meet this year, and 80, we had 100 people, and 80 said no, and 20 say yes. Well, I think the way we should react, not just, it's just a no vote altogether, just great. Let's just put something together for 20 people then, and leave it at that. That's the way I look at that. I don't know how anyone else would see that. But beyond that, I gave a couple of suggestions before. The barbecue and picnic at a park, or going to a ball game on a chartered bus. It's also a lot where COVID's going to be going now. I mean, I certainly, it's burning out everybody. Some things, love to go to a sports bar, but at the current time, that's impossible. So, but is this an issue we want to address now, or we just, it's, all I ask is you give me an opportunity to express myself, and then it's all your decision, and I respect that. And so if it's something you're really not up to seeing, doing it every year, like I suggested, so be it.
Well, I mean, we had talked even about, having something more frequent than that, but I don't know. Catherine, didn't you have some thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, some small gatherings, and that would be whoever wants to show up. The weather obviously changed pretty drastically to where it was just too cold to be sitting outside. And then with the holidays and, rain, and I don't know about you guys, I'm not going to go into a crowded bar at this time of year with COVID going on. So I'm not real big on organizing something like that. Not that it's impossible, but I'm more inclined to organize something when we can sit outside like we did right before the reunion.
Mhm.
When it's open air, I think more people are inclined to show up. It doesn't have to be a huge gathering. It can be just a, 10, 20 people, if nothing else. And I would be posting that on the website. So it's just pretty much open to anybody that wants to come. But like I say, the weather just, right after the reunion, the weather just changed. And then it's just kind of hit and miss. So, and I had a lot of stuff going on all of a sudden too. So I apologize for that, but I didn't mean to drop
No
the ball.
worries. I mean, from September to now, I mean, a lot, this isn't the time for a lot of outdoor activities.
Yeah. But, spring is right around the corner, and I think we'll get some things going on, small gatherings. We had talked about having another reunion, in 5 years?
Yeah.
As far as a full reunion, but definitely have some gatherings in between, small gatherings. Dan, are you looking for more of a big gathering, like a full class?
That's up to everybody, what they want to do. I mean, I use that 100 hypothetical number. And if 80, 90 people say yes, I say, great, we'll do it for 80 and 90. If only 20 said yes, let's just do it for 20. There's no question. I agree with you 100% on the indoor thing. We can't have indoor things until further notice.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just have to ask, is there any word of anyone since the reunion getting COVID? Just curious, but I'm sure the answer is no. So
I haven't heard of anybody.
So I think what we did was perfectly safe and a lot of fun, and do something just like that. And
the variant that's out there right now is apparently more contagious. So
less deadly. So it's right now apparently it's no worse than the normal flu from what I read, but nevertheless we've still got to be careful. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dan. There's still, a couple thousand people dying every day. So
we're not in the lowest risk age group either.
Unfortunately.
I know that comes as a surprise.
Yeah. But
I think if you got vaccinated, you're pretty safe, and like you say, it would be more like a flu. But even then,
okay.
I think
people 75
until we figure out what's going on with this disease and kind of know what to expect. I mean, there's just too many wild cards. I think for people are still reluctant to commit to anything.
Yeah, I'd say it might make more sense, you guys. And when we have the next call about 3 months from now, I think we'll know a lot more.
Yeah.
That'd be a time to bring up. Plus, we're heading into the nicer weather, a little more predictable. If we want to plan to get together, that'd be a good time to plan it.
Well, and I think I just heard one of the experts on TV talking about, they think things will improve in spring. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Has
Yeah,
everybody
Curtis?
gotten?
I just saw Curtis there. Curtis, do you remember this was back in '92? You remember you there was a place we all got together. Only a few of us ended up showing up. It was south of Sacramento. Do you remember that? And
Yeah,
then
it was Elk Grove Park, and you and
Mike
Helen
Brunswick.
Ferguson, and Mike Brunswick and myself, we were the great party of 4 at the picnic. So that's why when we mentioned about these periodic reunions, Mike and I tried to, in the 90s, really stimulate the interest. And there was another time we had an indoor bar thing going on, and it was Mike and I and his wife that
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, we gave up after a while.
So anybody talked to Mike lately?
I haven't.
I'm going to give him a call because he missed the reunion, and I meant to call him after the reunion, and I didn't do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
he didn't come to the 40th either. So
Can I just interrupt and give everybody, it's the California Museum and it's on 1020 O Street, if you're interested.
Between 10th and 11th on O,
Exactly,
the old State Archives building.
exactly.
Who
got
needs
a big
history when you
sign,
got
right?
Bob?
in front, I think, don't they? That you could, they have a big sign. It's a big sign in the front about the museum being the museum outside.
I don't imagine they're trying to keep it a secret.
No, I'm looking, it closes at 5 p.m. today if you're interested in attending today after this
There you go.
meeting.
Dan?
I think I'd be out of a,
You gonna fly out?
wouldn't quite make it there.
Yeah, it sounds worth a visit though, for sure.
It is a nice
2
museum.
hours ahead of you, Dan. You might make it.
Hey,
Gordon and I
Catherine,
would
I'll
have
come
an
by and
interest-
pick you up. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know,
Gordon and I would have an interest to see if our old cross-country coach would be represented in there because he was quite the historian. Remember Mr. Mahan,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
history teacher at Kennedy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, I ran one of my things I submitted. I did something on Mahan. Did you see that? That was a couple months back. So
No.
I found his
Where
obituary.
was that?
Was it on our site? Let me just do.
On the Facebook
Yeah.
site?
Yeah, no, and
Harry, I'm not on it.
and yeah, that's right. You're a local celebrity. I need to do something.
Yeah, right.
You and Chuck Roy. Where is Chuck Roy these days?
Last I knew, he was in Nevada City.
Oh, wow.
Chuck Roy, the DJ from Croy.
That's the guy, yeah.
Well, I gotta go into a great cliche,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, sign off with Santana's treat.
yeah, and so no, Sacramento is an awesome place. So there's a lot of history. If I were to move back to the area of Sacramento between where the railroad tracks go all the way out to like 29th Street, in that area, that is the most awesome walk around area I've ever been to. And of course, I've lived in London and I've been to Paris and all sorts of places. But that's, that area there. Once you get past the railroad tracks away from downtown and before 29th Street where the freeway is, it is just a lovely area, trees and everything. So
I'm going to tell you guys a quick Sacramento memory. My grandmother worked at the Capitol as a secretary for an assemblyman. And she got me in to be a Capitol page. And it was this thing, I don't know, like a week or something like that at the Capitol where you'd come in and run documents from one office to the other. And then at the end, they had a party for us. And it was William Land Park Zoo and various things. So that was a really memorable time. And of course, the closeness with my grandmother, and she actually lived with us for a time, and she drove a little Corvair Monza, and she let me go out and start it in the morning, and she'd take me to school over at Gady. And so anyway, that's my Sacramento memory. Anybody got a quick hit Sacramento memory?
Yeah, I got one for you. That downtown grid that Dan was referencing, all the streets between Front Street and 30th and the levee on the north and Broadway, those streets, all numbers and letters, were laid out by Captain John Warner back in the Gold Rush days. And all the work was done by his lieutenant, a fellow named William T. Sherman.
Yeah.
He laid out Sacramento just a few years before he really laid out Atlanta.
That's some trivia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
and yet Sutter's Ford is right there, isn't it? So it's I got a question I got to ask also. Why is every one of you have just a beautiful background in their pictures, and mine just looks like a heavy fog? Do I need to have another light on or something?
Well, it seems,
Yeah, it's I think lighting maybe, or camera. I don't know what kind of camera you're using, but
Yeah,
we
you
got
look like you're in the
14
dark, Dan.
participants. We got 14 participants, 13 with a good picture. I mean, you might want to limit your question to one. What's going on at your place, Dan?
I'm just a little. Now I've lost your. I lost. Let me try to get back again. Lost
the
everybody.
gallery.
Log rolling in there.
Dan, do you have lights on? I mean, it looks like you're in the dark.
Okay. Yeah, let me turn on the light. I just.
I did take a tour of the old underground old Sacramento, which was really interesting.
The opium dens?
That too. But you know, because the original Sacramento level was one story below, and they had to build up Sacramento because of the floods. And so it's like Seattle, where they had to build up from the first floor to second floor, where the second floor became the main level. And so you can go and take tours of the original levels of Sacramento. And they have pictures of people that actually, during the time it took 10 years to raise Sacramento to the level where it is now. And they have people climbing stairs down to the original level, to the new street level. So it's kind of interesting of the original level of Sacramento.
And you can see in a lot of the old houses in the neighborhoods where they're 2 or 3 story houses and the ground floor is halfway submerged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, below grade.
Yeah, because Sutter's Fort was on a hill looking down in Sacramento.
Yeah.
So
Along 22nd, 21st, 22nd, 23rd Street, between sort of V and S is a ridge, and that was called Poverty Ridge.
That's right.
Because when the town would flood, that was the outskirts, there were no houses there. And so the people who were flooded out of their houses would go and camp on that high point. So they called it, what do we need a museum for? We got me.
Did you know that Sacramento was not supposed to be where it is? The main city, it was supposed to be up where Sutterville Road is.
Right.
But
And you remember the
John
original
Sutter-
name? I
I
know you weren't there, but I think I was.
But John Sutter was in Mexico and his son was taking care of business.
Yeah.
And he decided to start building down there by 2 rivers. And his dad came back and said, "You idiot, this is a flood zone."
Yeah. Not only that, but in Sacramento, they were charging really high prices for ships to come in, dock, unload, or load and leave. So Sutter and his group decided to build down there where Sutterville Road is, and they started a town called Freeport because they weren't going to charge the ships.
Oh,
But it didn't catch on.
Yes,
Well, I'm glad you were.
Sacramento's
That's interesting.
elevation is 30 feet. And I had to move to some place that's 17 feet.
Well,
We're
you
a
got
little more
another,
flood prone here than Sacramento,
what's next for you, Death Valley?
really.
Where are you, Nick?
I'm in League City, Texas. It's halfway between Galveston and Houston. And we're
Wow.
only about a stone's throw from Galveston Bay, actually.
Nick, are you familiar with this person who manufactures golf carts in League City, Texas?
No, I'm not.
I have a client who lives in League City in your town, and he just started building one golf cart, and it ended up being $1 million business because everybody else wanted these golf carts.
Was
Yeah,
his
they're
name
very
Musk?
popular here.
What's that?
Was
They're
it
very
Elon Musk?
popular.
Hey,
I
if
didn't
it-
catch either one.
Gordon's got one of those golf carts.
battery powered.
Good.
Still trying to get back on here. I don't know what I did. I touched the screen and I flew off.
Well, we
Okay,
can see you.
Yeah, okay, I'm
And
sure
we can
that.
also see we can see your vaulted ceiling as well now.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that's part of the reason why you don't have any background is that your camera angle is pointed to the ceiling instead of to the wall.
okay.
Nice blue shirt, buddy.
No, thank you. This is, and this is I've talked about Asheville before. It's from a restaurant in Asheville. It's a neat town, Asheville. You guys are up that way. The Appalachians are kind of a neat thing.
How far are
So,
you from Newberry?
Oh, no, I know that. That's about 40 miles toward Greenville from here. And matter of fact, I'm on Meetup. I don't know if you guys are on Meetup, and there's some senior group that keeps emailing me. They want me to become a part of it. They're from Newberry, so I give that a try.
I have a good dear friend that lives in Newberry.
No, I hear about them. I just stopped. Been there one time. Okay, let's see if this works. But okay, and well, this is an interesting place here. If any of you guys are out this way, Nick, I do have to ask you because you were talking about how far your family goes back. Did they go all the way back to the Gold Rush?
actually, no. I mean, the early immigrants were the Kaufmans. That's my maternal grandmother, and her family came in the 1880s.
Yeah, we are. Okay.
My dad's family didn't come to Sacramento until the end of World War II.
For good and bad reasons, the Gold Rush was a tremendous part of our history. The Chinese and Italians that came here largely, I saw the swarming in to get the gold, use their common sense and said, let's just make money, all these gold rushers. And the great history there. That wonderful history went back all the way to there.
That's how Sam Brannan made his fortune.
Was in gold or servicing this?
Ripping off the miners by selling them high-priced stuff.
Okay. And Levi Strauss came out to try to sell them tents and finally said, hey, these might make good thing to wear for pants,
Yep, good work trousers.
Yes, yeah. So that's where history there because his tents weren't selling.
So I got a Sacramento history story for you. Speaking of merchants and catering to the Gold Rush crowd. So David Lubin, you recognize that name of Weinstock Lubin department store originally? Well, David Lubin, back during the Gold Rush, had opened a store. And everything in those days was price negotiated. You went in and, you dickered for the price and paid the price. And David Lubin's store had a revolutionary new idea. He had a fixed price for everything and he wouldn't negotiate. And so one day he had opened his store up, and a group of miners comes in and they're getting supplies and everything. They say, okay, we want this for this, this, and this. He says, nope, this is the price. He says, what do you mean? That I'm not going to pay this. Nobody pays this. I'm blah, 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 blah. And he says, no, the price is my price. And the guy stormed out, and David Lubin said, well, I guess I lost that sale. About an hour later, he shows up with 10 other guys and says, there he is, boys. He's the only honest merchant in town. Let's buy him out.
Wow.
A good one.
Now, there's
There's an elementary school named after David Lubin now in East Sacramento. I mean, it's been there for a long time. When I was, I think, 18, 19 years old, I started to try to buy property, and the cheapest stuff I could get was in Oak Park. I bought this one house, and my cost on it was pretty low because I used some private money. I borrowed from somebody, not a bank. And the tenants in that house had a daughter who was really smart, but she had a hearing problem. And at David Lubin's school, they have a program for hearing impaired children. And it's apparently a very good program. And that house was as close as they could afford to live to the school. So they took her over there every day. And I remember feeling really good about when I first bought it. They were afraid that they were going to get evicted. And I said, well, what's your rent? I already knew what the rent was. And they told me what it was. And I said, if I lowered that by $130, would that make it easier for you? What? Yep. And then I found a way to kind of game the system and sell them the house. So their payment went down even lower when they bought it. So
Wow.
I don't think that'll be in any of the Sacramento history museums, but I felt particularly good about that.
That was honorable of you.
I thought it was, yeah.
So when Robert and I got married, we rented a garage apartment in on 53rd Street. It was close to that Italian grocery store that was there, and that's kind of a Italian neighborhood. So recently, it's been declared a Little Italy of
Yeah.
Sacramento. Have you guys heard about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the people we rented from were Joe and Angie Capagreco, and they had fig trees in their yard, and our first child was born while we lived there. And as you entered to the apartment, there was a laundry room, kind of a sun porch with a laundry room, and you opened up the window and you could reach the clothesline. So we were hanging diapers on that clothesline and, you know, conveying them out into the yard.
Yeah. And one of my favorite cities to walk through is Venice, because on the face of it, you see these beautiful buildings and this beautiful city and the canals and all that. But if you go in the back alleys and so on, you see everybody's laundry. And it reminded me of growing up in San Francisco, where you had the clotheslines and you stood on your porch and you would reel it out, you know, and then pin up some clothes and then reel it out some more. So everybody's laundry is like waving in the wind and all the colors.
Yeah, Bob, I was in Venice once. I got a picture. I may have to post it now.
There you go.
You know, one thing also, when I lived in Britain, something I didn't know about Italian history. Now, you know, you get the Southern Italians, they're more dark skin, dark hair, but something I didn't realize in the northern part of Italy, they're more like Germans and Austrians. Their hair is blonde and everything. And you can see a lot of difference in the culture, though. It just was just like two, but they're all Italian, speak Italian. And I remember I'd make a few extra pounds working as a waiter and at an Italian wedding, and I really got into it. They took the spoon and started banging them, you know, and trying to understand the logic of that. But you know, to get the groom to, or the guy to marry, to kiss the girl. But there were just a lot of cultural things there were really amusing.
Where did you live in England?
I was up in Northwest London, around Edgware and later Hendon. And I still have a daughter there. So I haven't seen her in a long time. So, but it's a good time. That saw probably more music in the period I was there than all the times else in America. So.
Yeah, we're trying to get our trip to Sicily planned again. We went ahead and we booked with Rick Steves for end of May, and but we haven't booked any hotels or flights or anything because things are so uncertain. But we're got our fingers crossed that we might actually be able to travel this year.
Napoleon freed the Jews in Venice. That's one thing we'll always appreciate Napoleon for, as rotten a guy as he was. But Jews were just living in a quarter and kind of in their own ghetto. But he came in and freed them, offered equality. So I go, oh, well, I got to like Napoleon if he did that. But there wasn't too much else to like him for.
Yeah.
The other thing that he did was he instituted vital record keeping in all the areas where he became in charge of, and it kind of stuck. So the Italians have vital records going back to 1820.
Makes your job easier, doesn't it, Nick?
It does, a lot easier. Anybody planning to travel?
Hopefully.
Mm.
You know, I was also 2 months ago. I flew up to Boston. It was bittersweet on one. I was just driving around New England. It's real beautiful. Mark Rogers, you all remember him? He's about as good a guy as I ever met. And I went in Portland. You know, he died. He died very suddenly. You know, I was emailing him and everything, and suddenly the email stopped coming.
Yep.
And, I would have loved to have seen him while I was in Portland, and you know, he was not the.
As a matter of fact, a couple of springs ago, I was planning a trip. I was going to fly to Atlanta, rent an RV, and start in Newberry, South Carolina, where my friend Bill Rogers lives, and visit friends along the coast all the way up to Maine, where Mark Rogers lived. And I was calling it my Rogers to Rogers tour. And all of a sudden I stopped hearing from Mark. So I contacted the department where he worked, and they said he had retired. And I did a little bit more research and found out that he had passed. He developed cancer, and it went very quickly, apparently. But he wasn't communicating with anybody at the end.
Well,
Yeah.
And that took the wind out of my Rogers to Rogers tour sales, that's for sure.
I really wanted to see the guy. He was a good guy, you know, and I would love to have seen him while I was up there. And I'm sure there's other people from Kennedy who live up in New England. I don't know who, but I knew Mark lived up there. And
My wife's family is from Norway, and we had a trip planned for September 2 years ago to go to the little town that's actually named for her family. And it's on a fjord. It's close to the coast. And because of COVID, the airline sent money back. I said, no, you're not going. Like to do that again. I lived in Norway for the summer of '76, and that is a beautiful place.
I went there also from England. I was supposed to go to Oslo, but then ended up going to flew. I don't remember the name of the town, just nearby. I just walked around all day. I wish I'd gone to Oslo, but yeah, it is about as beautiful a country as I've ever seen.
Yeah, you take the train all the way up toward the Arctic Circle, and every time that train goes around a curve, you got another postcard to look at. It's just
also
gorgeous.
Expensive country in the world to live in. It is really, I mean, enormously. You know, it was like the price of a shirt was like, I remember it was equivalent to 110 pounds, whatever that was at the time. You know, that's about $160. You know, and
didn't bother me at all. I didn't spend any money.
Well, you're a big, rich, famous disc jockey, you know.
No, not the case. I happened to meet somebody on a train in Spain, kept in touch with her, and it was so, I mean, her parents had a cabin up by the Arctic Circle, and they weren't using it. They said, you can have it. So I went up there for 2 months. I lived in this cabin. There was a little garage that had a boat, little double-ender boat in it that went on a rail down to the water. So I'd drop the boat in the water, throw out a spinner, and every single time within minutes, a big fat salmon would hit it.
Oh, man.
And that's where I developed my love for Norwegian salmon. I would take that and grill it and eat that thing for about a week and then go out and get another one.
Boy, that's gourmet. Fresh out of the water like that. Can't beat that.
Yeah.
That's like tree ripened fruit.
We had a.
So I want to call on a couple people that haven't said too much. Van or Mitchell, what's going on with you?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, we had a somewhat similar experience in Norway, like 20, I don't know, more than 20 years ago, but it was when had been living in Moscow, where I was a correspondent, and
we wanted to take a trip to Norway for a couple of weeks because it's pretty close. And I went online to the extent that online existed then and found this rental house on this little like village on the North Sea, about a 3-hour drive from Oslo. And so we rented this like cottage, and the guy the owner faxed us a picture of it with directions to get there. But it had no address. It just was like, take this road till you see a red house. And we got in late, and it was like 3, by the time we got to the house, it was like 3 in the morning, and we're driving down this road, and it became apparent that pretty much every house in Norway is painted red. And there were all these red houses that were right on the sea, but we had no idea which was the one we had rented. So
It's the red one.
Yeah, it's the red one.
The
So
red
we
one with the white
ended up
trim.
just like walking up to houses and peeking in until we found a vacant one. And the guy had said that, you know, the key was under the mat, and we checked, there was a key. So we went in, and fortunately it was the right house.
That could be embarrassing.
And we didn't catch fish, but there was one of the neighbors was a fisherman, and he would come back at the end of the day with this boat full of fish. And so I just said, hey, can we buy some of your fish from you? And he said, sure. So we would get this, you know, fresh out of the ocean fish at the end of the day, which was really cool. That's the best, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was a great trip.
So Van, what's going on with you?
You talking to me again this time?
No, Van Madison.
Oh, Van. I've talked so much, I didn't think it'd be me.
So the most recent international travel that my wife and I took was right before COVID hit. And we had a chance to go to the UK, to France, and to Spain. And what I didn't realize about London was that the Romans had such a heavy influence there. I didn't realize that. And then, of course, we saw the sites in France. We took the high-speed rail from from the UK to France. And it seemed like it only took about an hour to get there, maybe less than that. And you don't realize, for those of you that maybe haven't been on a high-speed rail, that you're going that fast because you can look out through the window and see the landscape, and it doesn't look like you're going that fast until you see a telephone pole whiz by. And you say, what was that blur? And you realize it was a telephone pole. So we got to Paris in no time at all. And then, of course, saw the usual sights there. Went to the Louvre and to the Eiffel Tower, and took a number of pictures there. And Spain, I thought, was just beautiful. We just really had a great time in Spain, and saw some caverns there where they had an actual symphony in the cavern because of the acoustics in there. So found that very interesting. Saw bull ring. Of course, there was no activity going on in it, but I found it to be very, very interesting. Went through the Straits of Gibraltar. Very windy there all the time, I guess. So as you're coming out of the Mediterranean, for those of you that haven't been there, as you're coming out of the Mediterranean, you go into the Atlantic, it becomes very, very choppy out there. But other than that, we had a wonderful time. Wonderful time.
Bye, Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Bye, Stephanie.
You'd be sailing on the Mediterranean. You approach the straits, it's windy, then it's choppy. I would just turn around and go back into the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I don't know how the heck
I wasn't the skipper of the ship, so.
Yeah. Why did anybody ever go and discover America, for crying out loud?
To meet you, Bob, to meet you.
That was it.
So Steve,
Steve,
you haven't
why
said
did you
a
leave
whole lot.
Spain?
What's going on with you, Steve?
Steve, what's going on with Steve? Well, let's see. I'm in that phase where my mom just died.
I'm sorry.
Interesting. Only because what it kind of pushed you through. You know, we all kind of experience the death of our parents, and this is my last parent, and so we're cleaning up her house every day to get ready to get rid of all her stuff. So I have to go through and touch everything in the house. At the same time, I'm doing it here at my house too, because I got to make room for her stuff. So I've got, I'm in that phase of going through everything and seeing everything you've done in your life and putting it in shred and watching it go away. So I'm one of those people that keeps everything for too long. And so were my parents. So it's been an arduous process and, you know, kind of extremely emotional up and down going through all that, which is interesting. Kind of makes you look back at things and, you know, value the high school experience we had, value especially getting all back together again. Just makes you appreciate a lot of good things when you look back.
When did your mother pass, Steve?
In October.
Uh-huh.
In October, yeah, she was in a assisted living place and fortunately just went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. About as easy as it could be for her. You know, she's 90.
That's a good way to go.
What a way to go. You know, I was so happy for her and the, you know, avoiding a lot of suffering that happens to so many of us. So anyway, and then we had a celebration of life where we tried to make it as big and crazy and nutty as possible, which some people's cup of tea, but my mom was very effusive and she loved big events and she loved loud things. And so we turned it into a giant party.
So the wake was appropriate.
It was a lot of fun. So
good.
So anyway, so we've been through that and
Well,
so
Steve,
it does make, go ahead.
I really sympathize with you. My father passed at, he was 100 years old and he passed 2020. It's been a year now in October.
Yeah.
And I am the only one cleaning this house out where I grew up since kindergarten.
Wow.
And arduous, yes. Difficult, yes. Am I done? No. I'm working on my mother's stuff now.
Oh, wow.
I want to sell the house and hopefully in spring, but I know what you mean. I'll put stuff aside for my brothers. Do you want it or not? And I think the hardest part for me is I haven't even started the photos, the picture albums.
Oh yeah.
My mother went on like 35 cruises and she went on just so many trips. I mean, always traveling. We all have that travel bug. And I don't know what to do. I think most of the pictures, unfortunately, will probably toss because I don't know what to do with them. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at your background there and just imagine that packed with photos. What would you do with it? I don't know.
That's the same problem I have right now.
And
if you figure out what to do.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. I mean, it is, you know, and you have to give yourself a break every now and then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know the toll you'll feel it.
It takes a toll.
Yeah, that's just my advice. You know, if you could just give yourself.
Yeah, I've been kind of the collector of family history. So, you know, when my grandmother passed, I ended up with that and my mom and now, and then my grandmother's sister, I ended up with a bunch of her stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I was like, who am I going to give this to? You know, what am I going to do with it ultimately? And so my goal has been to try to just digitize as much as possible. And the fastest way I found to digitize is just get in there with my phone and start taking snapshots. Some stuff, you know, if it's like I have a little ScanSnap S1500 by Fujitsu. I can actually stack photos in that if they're relatively close inside, and it'll just pop, take them right through. If you're interested in saving any of the images. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with it? I put it in a box and I send it to my siblings and they can deal with it.
So what was the name of your scanner?
It's called Fujitsu Scan Snap. And, you know, it's great for documents, you know, any kind of documents that you want to digitize and get rid of the hard copies. But it also works for pictures. The other thing you can do with pictures with a flatbed is you can just, you know, cram as many pictures onto the flatbed plate as it'll fit, and then just scan the entire thing.
Yeah,
And
except
then,
slow one.
yeah.
Sheila Gordon.
Bye all. Got to drop you guys. See you on the next call. Good to talk to all
Bye.
you. Really
Bye,
is. See you.
I
Right.
So yeah, it's, my daughters don't want anything to do with all this stuff, so.
All right.
That's
We're still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording. Do you want me to stop?
Sometime